Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. You all know my co-host, John. John, how you doing?
Doing good, brother. Hey, everyone.
So I wanted to bring Linda back on for a certain reason because, number one, she does the Sit Happens Dog Training, LLC. And lately, I've been really wondering, what's been going on about, because I'm starting to see a lot more service dogs. And I think that's very appropriate. And mainly when the people get out of the car, that I see the DV plates. And so I'm starting to notice it. And one of the reasons is for me, a big thing is guys with PTSD. And so, but right before we get into that, we are going to talk a little bit about when Linda was in the Air Force, but when she went in during her time, and then we're going to do a little bit of that. But then I want to get into the great topic of the dog training. So, Linda, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I was Air Force, 4 years, 89 to 93. Was sent over to the Gulf War early August of 90. I don't remember when we left, March or April the following year. I was transportation, so first in, first out for Air Force anyway. And then 2015 is when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and found out like about 3 months after that it was connected to the Gulf War. I had no idea. Had an Air Force colonel 15 years ago tell me that I needed to get in and, you're a Gulf War vet, get in there and get diagnosed. And I was like, I'm fine. I was having symptoms, but nothing that was really keeping me back until about 2015, and it hit pretty hard. The chronic fatigue, pain. So 2021, I started my little dog training business and for-profit business. And I'm over 50 clients now. So I'm averaging about 20 to 25 clients a year. Comes and goes, wanes. It's not consistent yet. But one of my goals is to start a nonprofit for veterans. My goal was bigger. It's kind of funneling down to more specific now for the nonprofit. I wanted to do everything like 2 years ago. And now I'm realizing you get into rescue work and you get into the work, you're like, okay, there's a lot. So I want to focus on helping veterans get service dogs.
No, that's great. So I know John want to talk about a little bit of your time as a transportation. And so, John, go ahead and ask that question because I know you're dying to ask it. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's just like, I'm curiosity. I know I asked this question, but those who didn't maybe get an opportunity to see that episode, tell us a little bit about your transportation, what you did in transportation while you're over there, that kind of thing.
So, a lot of, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines were all different far as, especially back 80s, 90s versus what it is now too, because I haven't kept up with it. But it was, I got out of basic and I went straight to my job. So it was on the job training. I was stationed down in Phoenix and we had a license and you got trained on certain things. You got things added to your license. I was one of those tenacious airmen that were like, I want all of this. So I was always nagging my supervisor, Darren Johnson. He's from Wisconsin too. I don't know. I would love to find him again. I haven't seen him since I've left, but I was that nag, like, hey, what are you training me on today? But so it was about a year in, and I was driving the tractor trailer when I was over there, so I must have had it on my license.
Whoa. Time out. What do you mean tractor trailer? Like an 18-wheeler or?
Yeah, flatbed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So not commercial.
Oh,
I didn't get my I never got my CDL after I got out.
You didn't have to have any damn license to do anything. If they allow me to push buttons, you didn't have to. You didn't need any license out there. But I mean, So in the transportation, because what I find fascinating is transportation just doesn't mean people. It also means cargo. It also means all different types of stuff. So did you do both?
Yeah, it was a little different from what I've heard between with Army Marines. Even, I'm not sure as far as with Navy, but we had it a little bit different. So in our yard in Phoenix, we had, the cars, the sedans, the pickup trucks. We went from transporting 4-star generals and dressing our blues and driving them around because they needed a driver, I guess. You know. But I love that part though, because I was real social. So I was like, I'd do everything. But we had forklifts, we had 22K, we had a fancy Cadillac 22K forklift on, but all different sizes. Buses were huge. So we had Army guys come in and doing their training at our base. And we'd have buses and we'd be transporting them in and out of the desert because we're in, Arizona. So we
I
so
guess
the
that means
buses were huge. So just support. We were support for the base. So on any kind of transportation.
I guess I was in transportation also because since both mates drive the ships and everything, I transported all the people around. Boy, they got lucky. They got
So,
really lucky.
so I gotta ask this question. I swear to God, every time. Okay, so you're boss's man. I told you straight up. I don't know shit about the Navy. Everything I've learned about the Navy is basically through you. My brother was in the Coast Guard. We don't necessarily talk about. I know he was electronics and stuff in the Coast Guard. But you said a bosun mate. So you're saying you steered the ship. Would a bosun's mate also been someone who steers a submarine? Would a bosun
Yes.
what is a
Yes.
bosun mate? Was that, now don't take this wrong, brother? Was that a catch-all or is that very specific job categories?
Catch all. We did everything from chip and paint,
Okay.
driving ships to running cranes to booms to both mates do it all. That really they do your shit jobs and they do
Okay.
good jobs. And so you got to work your way up from the crap jobs to the good jobs.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense for Army
No, it
guys?
does, but I had to ask you. I just straight
It's
up
kind of
don't
like
know.
what's the E1 in the Army? Is that private?
As a private.
Okay, so they're the ones that are
E2 is
very front
private
of the
too.
line.
You don't get it, and when you hit E3, it's private first class. And then you E4, it's referred to as a specialist. And then
Okay,
you go to sergeant and so on.
so think of us a private on infantry. You're in the very front line, and then you got your E2s behind you, your E3s behind you, your E4s behind them, your E5s look like that. It's kind of like how Bosamate is. When you start
Okay.
out the E1, you're chipping paint, cleaning toilets, sweeping, mopping.
Okay. All right.
Did
So
all
that answers that question.
Put over the
Now,
side the ship, paint. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
we were talking. We brought up the terminology in the Air Force. Why is the Air Force? I was saying how it seems like they got all the nice stuff. And Linda, you made the comment. Yeah, the accommodations. Why are the accommodations so different? You go into a mess hall in the Army, it's pretty bland. You go into Air Force and they got freaking linen out. I mean,
What do you mean they got Tempur-Pedic mattresses, and we got
who's
an
they?
inch and a half. The Air
You're in
Force
a.
and everything. But okay, well, let's get back on track because I could really have some fun with that. And I'm not going to piss off any Air Force or Army guys, especially Coast Guard. But I want to get back on track. So when you came back and you want to start doing this dog training, John asked a really good question, specific question. What 3 main dogs are the best to train? I'm going to take a guess. German Shepherd. I watched some videos of what them son of a guns can do. Okay. I see them German Shepherds. They're awesome. The second one, I would say Golden Retriever. Because I see them more. And then the third one, believe it or not, I'm actually going to say this. I would almost say a poodle.
What? Okay. All right.
No, let's ask her. Okay. Let's go.
No, I'm gonna give my I can only come up with two. I'm going to say German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois, and shit. I'm gonna wing this last one. Well, that's still a German though. I was gonna say German short hair, but that's wrong. So I can only think of two. Okay, I'll just stop there because I can only think of two. Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make it really just throw you guys completely off the rails, and so I'm a two-sided answer here. So my first go-to answer is it all depends on the dog. So I know, right? Like that's not the fun we're having. Like you actually wanted me to. No, I'm gonna go into actually more of the breed specifics, but it really is. Holy crap! You get into you like I said, I specialize in German Shepherds specifically, because that's what I've had since I was 4, and and I have a house full right now. I don't claim them all because my adult sons have them as well, but I'm the main person. But when you look at the serious question, if you get into looking in the service dogs, you're going to see golden retrievers, you're going to see labs, and you're going
Okay.
to see the German Shepherd as well. German Shepherd, you're talking about the Belgian Malinois that you're looking, and German Shepherd specifically are very much working dogs.
Yeah.
So they're again, depends on the individual dog. You're gonna hear a lot of opinions about the German Shepherd, and a lot of people saying they're not good for service dogs. But again, it all depends on the dog. You can't go into a litter to a breeder or into a rescue and say, okay, I want that dog to be my service dog, and make them a service dog. They have to be the perfect dog for that work. You just can't. You can't choose a dog and make them something that they're not. So
my miniature schnauzer would not be a good one. He's a pain in the butt.
well,
He thinks he is a German Shepherd.
So well, they're a protective breed. So you're in the protection. You got to balance that. So the German Shepherds are meant for protection. Now they are under the herding breed class, right? So you hear about herding, but like herding, it's more protection than herding. So you're thinking of a flock of sheep. And the herding part, you think of more of the border collie, the Australian Shepherd as the true herding, focus on that animal and getting the animal to where they want to go. The German Shepherd I'm pointing at Belder over there, who is looking at me like, why are you talking about me? They're more of the protection, keeping the bad things away. So you got to be careful with the German Shepherd with service dog work, because public access. They can do the work that you need for your disability, right, in your home, to get you out in public, make you feel safe. I used to pick up my son in the city in Madison a couple years ago, and it'd be dark, it'd be 10 o'clock at night, going into kind of not a very good area in Madison here. And I had these guys with me. Anyone come up and say hi, I dare you, because my dogs will not let you come close, right? So people with anxiety, that does make us feel better. But at the same time, there's a responsibility of public access. If you're bringing them to stores, you're bringing them everywhere. Is that dog going to react to someone getting too close to you? They have to focus on you. So it's all with temperament. Temperament has to be very strong. They have to be they can't be nervy. So if something, they have to be able to recover well. Something falls, there's a noise, there's a train going by, there's a noise they never heard. Are they curious and they're alert on it, but are they shrinking back, or are they creating their fear getting higher and they're more reactive? So a dog can change too. You can have a great dog from puppy to 2 or 3, then all of a sudden they're changing. So they're sentient beings.
Let me ask you this question. So let's say we have an individual out there listening to us and really curious. The question might be, okay, based on what you're saying, and here's what I want for an animal. And the question might be, what is it that I'm looking for in that animal? I have really bad, let's say PTSD. What characteristics do I want to look for in that animal?
Bonding with you. So if we're talking about public access, that's something different. How they react to hustle and bustle sounds, people walking past, other dogs walking past, obedience level, where, you brought up the poodle. Poodles are super smart, very, very, they're one of the smartest breeds out there. I've ran into some poodles that, because of their smartness, that they're have a little bit more anxiety or a little bit more reactivity. You have some poodles that are just, they're steady, they're great, they're like whatever, and they do the job just like some shepherds do. But then you have some shepherds that, they just can't handle that work. But for your disability itself, you have to have a dog that is wanting to do the work. So that's where the drive comes in. So you have low drive dogs that are kind of lazy and, "Oh, okay, we're going to do nothing today. Okay." And then you try to teach them something they can learn, but they just don't have that literal
That don't
drive to want to do something. So when I need you to do some pressure work on me, I need you to, um, some dogs will intervene if you have some anxiety, whether you are, um, you do some people pace, some people, they're rocking or they're picking at their skin or doing whatever it is with their anxiety. The dog has to see that and interrupt. Now, they're not interrupting because they know that you're self-harming or you're in a panic attack. They're trained to interrupt because they're positive reinforced. So when they see this, you starting to pace, they know that during their training, they got treated for that. They got rewarded for that. So they're not, some dogs will be in tune. I've had people say, "Hey, my dog has done this naturally, where I'm sitting here and I'm having a panic attack and they interrupt me and they climb on my lap or they do something to bring me back into the moment again." And that's great. Those dogs, but how do you find those dogs, right? So,
Right.
so it's a really loaded question. So, finding the right dog is not easy. Now, that balance, you might have a dog that's not perfect, but that can do the work for you. And that's what it comes down to, is whatever we're dealing with, the PTSD, the nightmares, the repetitive behavior, the self-harm, interrupting, anxiety is worried about the future, depression is worried about the past. Dogs live right now in the moment, and that's why they're great. Sorry.
no, that's I totally I
Great
get that.
therapy.
Yes. And I would have never in my
They're great.
lifetime looked at it like that.
Yeah, they are
No,
great. They live in the moment. So, I mean, dogs are like, they sit here and they they're not worrying about tomorrow. They're not worrying about a week from now. They might have some memories of maybe some good or bad things that have happened, but really truly they're right now. And that's where they have to suck us in and remind us, hey, right now matters, not tomorrow, not what happened to us 6 months ago, 3 years ago, 20
right.
years ago, right now, because we forget that. And then all of a sudden we're 50, almost 53. I'm like, wait a minute.
Okay.
What happened? Our time flies. So they bring and they're great therapy, and they're not talk therapy. Now, I know there's benefits to talk therapy. I have a psych background. I never did able to finish my degree, but my emphasis was in psychology. And there's talk therapy, there's group therapy, there's psychiatrists that prescribe meds, and there's all of the stuff that works. But for some people, talking about whatever trauma we went through doesn't work for us. So they're just there. They're not judging us. They're loyal. They love us, and they help us breathe again, calm our nervous systems down. Cats can do that too. Now, John, you said you have cats, right?
Correct.
Cats are, I've learned, I have a cat. He's my ESA. So no matter where I move, he can come with me. But the purring and the cat calms me down. I notice, like, I hear the purring and I can feel my nervous system calming down. So there's different
So,
benefits to animals that can help us in different
so
ways.
that what you just said there, cats and dogs. So I know, I think perhaps when we spoke the other day, I asked you a question. I said, let's say I have cats and I want a dog, and talk to us a little bit how that might react, what the difference is. Well, now you can't bring a dog into a family that's got cats. That isn't going to work. But you did a really good job explaining how the animals react to one another. Would you expand on that a little?
Well, so so cats are not as domesticated as we think. And again, and these are all my opinions. So when you get into dog training, you get into animal training, there's theory. So just like human psychology is theory, there's nothing concrete. I mean, there's some really core things that are pretty strong, but there's theory. But my theory with the cats is that there are cats that are more like dogs. They're just like indifferent and they don't act like prey. But then you have cats that they're skittish, they're jumpy, and they're running around, and that triggers the prey animal in the drive in the dog. Like, ooh, that thing is, it's just a natural thing for them to, something takes off running, like, ooh, I want to chase after it. Whether that dog means to do harm or not, I mean, usually it's just their instinct. So we have to really focus on that instinct of the dog. Now, there are cats like my cat, he's just kind of like, dogs are stupid, and he just stands there, sometimes he'll jump and he'll react, and then they'll chase after him. But for the most part, I mean, they've grew up with him and cats in general, and they know, hey, stop. But it is very trainable. You get a dog in there and you just have to be that constant leader, and we have to they have to know their boundaries. They can do this and they can't do this. But reinforcement, man, reinforcement, one time a dog gets away with something and they're like, oh, I got away with it, and now I can, and then untraining that is really hard. So mistakes will happen. You're going to have these blips where you're like, the dog just got the chicken off the counter. Then you're like, oh, food's on the counter, so now I'm going to get up on the counter all the time. So then you're kind of back to zero to training again. But then you just have to, you're constantly, they got you on your toes. But
Okay,
with
so
that, having a dog, whether they're your emotional support animal or their service dog that has public access training, and they're appropriate in public and safe for the public and other people, training doesn't stop. It's for the life of the dog, whether you have ESA, you have a pet, or you have a service dog. Training never ending.
So you just said public access, and I think I asked this earlier because that was confusing, because you don't know what you don't know. And I thought, well, can't anybody take their animal into, you want going to Walmart, you want to go to the grocery store, and I asked you the question, hey, doesn't that dog has to be acknowledged as a service dog? And your answer was,
but before you say that, let's tell the difference between a support, the
Emotional,
differences, and emotional support dog, and the what's the other one I forgot?
Service
dog.
Yeah, that
So
I think that's what John was trying to say.
So ESA, emotional support animal, is what that is, an animal. So it can be any animal that gives you any kind of emotional support. They are not trained in a task. Service dogs are trained with a task to mitigate your disability. So it's emotional support animals is something new. I don't know when I never did look up to see when that term and that came to be. A couple years ago. So emotional support animals, all you need is a letter from your licensed provider, whether it's a therapist, psychiatrist, MD, your primary doctor. They do not, it's kind of like a prescription, if that helps to understand kind of what they are. So you can get a letter, and what all that really helps you with, it used to help with traveling on airlines, but airlines they say no to ESAs now. Any emotional support animals cannot fly like they used to. That was 2.5 years ago. All the airlines are like, no more, because people were taking advantage and taking their birds and taking all these crazy animals onto the airlines, and there's no law and there's no regulation of it, and there still isn't.
Okay.
So what emotional support animals can help with our public now is landlord tenant issues. So a landlord that says no animals ever, well, you have this letter from your doctor saying this person does not disclose your disability. Never let them disclose that. That is no one's business but your own and your doctor. The letter is just a letter that says this person can benefit from having an emotional support animal. So whether it's a cat or a dog or a bird or whatever, and they cannot charge you for fees. They cannot charge you for cleaning fees unless it's
Oh,
excessive.
really? Oh, well,
You can
that's interesting.
like a $30, $40 dog fee to have a dog. They cannot charge for those. An excessive cleaning, of course, if your dog just destroyed the apartment or the house that you're renting or whatever. But they can't just, oh, I'm just going to charge you extra because you had a dog. They can't do that. They cannot raise your rent, and they cannot deny you for emotional support. But emotional support does not have public access to stores, or to hospitals, or to wherever you go in public where dogs aren't normally allowed. So that's just more landlord-tenant issues. To be able to have that emotional support, I need a cat or I need something. I don't necessarily have a disability that needs a dog to help mitigate my my disabilities. But we get into the service dog. Now, service dogs are they're trained. So let's backtrack a little bit. You do not need a trainer to train your dog. There's no certification, there's no paperwork, and you do not have to identify your dog. When I'm talking about service animals, I'm gonna talk about dogs because I don't know. I know there's people out there that have horses, like mini horses to help, mobility or whatever it is, but I don't know about that. I just know about dogs. You do not need identifying saying that they're a service dog. You do not need a card. You do not need paperwork. There is no certification.
Is
You
that
can train.
across the U.S. or is that state specific?
That's the United States. That is a federal.
Oh, okay.
And you do not need to identify, because what that comes down to, the reason for that is because American Disability Act protects us, so we don't have to say, well, my disability is this and this and this.
Okay.
We don't have to disclose that. That's protecting us. But then we have to go on the other extreme. Is there people taking advantage of that, and their dogs are not trained. They're defecating and having accidents in the store. They have behavior issues. They're at the end of their leash. They're barking. They're sniffing the food. Whatever. They have to be highly trained. Even though you don't specifically need a trainer to do it, there's a responsibility of having a service dog in public, and so there's this balancing act. I feel like it should be stricter, but then if it was stricter, then less people would have these animals. And I believe there's a lot of people that need them and don't have access to them, and that do need.
So if I had a service dog and I wanted to go into Walmart and I was stopped at the entrance, what do you say? Dog that needs to be identified as a service dog or does not need identified?
No, it does not need identification. They do not need a vest. I have a vest for my dog. I went through an organization here with my dog Belder, and they had an owner trainer program. So I trained him myself. They gave me a vest. They gave me the equipment that I needed, and I trained him myself. I particularly use the vest for the responsibility of having a service dog, and I feel like I'm going to use it because I want them to know that I am my dog is trained. I am a responsible person as far as when it comes to, I truly have a service. I don't have to, though. I can walk in and I don't have to say anything. And there's two questions they can ask you. They can ask you, is that a service animal? And it's a yes or no answer. And the other one is, what are they trained to do for you? And your answer for that is you do not have to say, well, they help me with my anxiety. They help me with my PTSD. There is no law that says that you have to tell them what your disability is by telling them what the dog is trained for. So a great answer is, they help me mitigate my disability. And that's all you have to answer.
Okay.
And
All right.
But on the responsible part, your dog has to be trained. It has to be highly trained. It has to be focused. It has to be doing these tasks. You can't just bring a dog in.
So I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but our listeners like myself are very curious because I love dogs. And you had made a comment earlier that some people well, I don't really think I need a dog, but do I need a dog? And okay, if I need a dog and I decide to get a dog, this is going to be a loaded answer, I'm sure. But what is maybe what age? And I mean, you get a dog as a puppy and you want to train it, but what can be a reasonable expectation is how long is it going to be before this dog is properly trained? And I'm sure that's a loaded question, but I'll just throw it out there.
Yeah, you see you'll see bigger organizations that have been doing it for years, and they do get puppies. You can tell a really good breeder and a really good trainer can specifically train. I really put this on the breeder, so I put a lot on the breeder. Like they can tell usually, I mean, again, things go kind of can go awry, especially with, personalities, with temperaments, with drive. But you can tell by, I would say by between, 5 to 6 weeks, 6 weeks, let's say 6 weeks, what drive they are and what temperament they are, whether they're good service dog
Okay.
material, whether that
Okay.
means they're going to continue to be good service dog material, never know.
I have
That there's no guarantee with that. But starting them young, and what you do with a puppy is public access. So teaching them how to mitigate your disability is behind closed doors, right? But public access is so important. So getting them the obedience, and manners, just manners in public, making sure that, they're not going to greet people. They're not, they have to walk a very straight line, and they have to learn that from the beginning. So
and I have
not
a
saying you
question.
can't get a dog at 2 years old and train them to be a service dog, because some just naturally, man, great,
Now this
potential. How can you say no? But
So my daughter and them have a dog. It's like half. It's like a quarter German Shepherd, quarter Pit Bull, and the rest of it's Golden Retriever. Most beautiful dog you've ever seen. The loveliest dog you've ever seen, with the biggest bark. So if anybody ever tries to break into their house, I really feel sorry for them. But I keep telling them, y'all need to take this dog and bring him in to get trained. And train it not as a service dog, not as an emotional support dog, but just to get him trained to be a protector of the family, to watch over my granddaughter. To me, I think that's very important. But I also know, with that being said, when people go out with dogs, most people that have vests, one of the things that says on their vest besides service animal or service dog, it says, please do not pet. And I
Oh,
always see people with their kids going, oh, hey, can I pet your dog? I'm like, dude, it says it on the thing.
it's the most uncomfortable thing. Now I'm very social. Um, I I really struggled with that because but this is how I've explained it. So my own experience, I would feel sorry for the person. I'm like, oh, I love my dog. I want to share my dog, but he's working. But what I thought was ideal, which wasn't, and I should have advocated for him and myself, was he's working, no, and not feel sorry for the other person, like, oh, okay, and give in. Absolute no, 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 no. The dog's
Right.
working. Stop asking. Don't ask. It's this is the example that I have given. So I'm a little bit off track here, but the example is if someone were in a wheelchair, or you're in a cast, or you have a prosthetic arm or leg, someone comes up to you, oh, that's cool, can I touch it? I'm like, no, there's a boundary. You're not going to go up and touch someone's wheelchair, or can I push your wheelchair around for you, or oh, that looks like fun, or can I touch your prosthetic hand? No, we're not going to do that. The same thing, they're a part of us. The service dog is a part of me to be able to do whatever I need to do to get through to live a better life. So and there's also another way to explain it too, is there are people with social anxiety that they do not leave their house because of that, and their dog gets them out. So you're going to go up to someone who does not want to talk to anyone, has social anxiety, does not want to talk to people, but that dog actually got them out in public, and then you're coming up to them and saying, hey, what's up? And they're like, okay, you're the reason I don't want to go out in public.
And so we got a question here.
So
And well, we got two questions. And so the first question is someone is Thomas, he says, I'm 100%. He says, are there organizations that help training a service dog for free? And I kind of looked this up because I knew somebody's going to ask this question.
No, that's great. That's great. So Thomas, that is my goal. So I have a for-profit right now. So I do I go into people's homes and I help them train their dogs, family dogs, behavioral issues, puppy issues, whatever it is. But my goal is exactly what you're talking about. There's a local place here in Wisconsin that I went through for my service dog. They have a 5-year wait list. So they get puppies and they have their trainers, their puppy raisers, and it takes them, depending on what the disability is, depending on what the dog is being trained for, because we have a vast, spectrum of disabilities, right? So my goal is to I want to start this nonprofit sooner than later to help people to be able to get that dog into the veterans home sooner, right away, and help them train their dog. So, and I want to do it for free. So there is no cost. Now, the local place that local to me, Madison, Wisconsin, that I went through, they do give veterans free service dogs. They train them. It can take up to a year, 18 months to 2 years, depending again on the dog, depending on what the dog's being trained for. But you're waiting 2 years, and then again, there's 500 people waiting on this list, so or more.
And I learned something else. I learned something that you can literally either ask your vet or your local shelters. And your shelters, believe it or not, will know of where, number one, a veteran can get a service dog and where they for free and where they can possibly get it trained. And so them are the two best that I've learned is to ask a local vet and not veterans, a veterinarian. And the other one is to ask your local shelter.
And ask the VA as well. Now, the VA here in Madison, I've seen they have some resources. The few people that I've talked to about this, they didn't know or they've heard of some, but you definitely have some people in your state and in your area that may be able to help you. My goal locally, I definitely want to help. It's just me by myself. Now, my son is a dog trainer as well, but it's just me right now doing all the work. But eventually I would love to do, to be that resource as well. But you should be able to get out. I don't know. I don't have any websites or anything that I can think of right now as far as resources to help veterans get dogs. But
on here, because that was Daniel's question, was that he had a dog, had cancer, it passed away, and he's in Orchard, Washington, and he has PTSD. He's going through a lot of stuff, and his dog passed away, and he's looking for another dog to get him and help get it trained. And so if anybody out there is in the Washington state area, y'all please contact Daniel. You'll see him on here, or contact me. And that's a really good way of doing it. Honestly, that's a great way of doing it.
And have them send my way too. Have them send me messages. I can do some research. I have a few resources. Not, of course, not in every state, but I do have some resources on some pages that I follow that I can reach out and I can help and see what I can do.
And what's the name of your?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here her information. Sit. I love that name, by the way. Happens dog. Oh, not G. And so what I'm doing here, when I type this in, this is her website, even on Facebook. So y'all go to her Facebook
So I have a Facebook website. Now there are other sit happens in the country. So I'm in Wisconsin. You can find um I'm trying to think I think in the Facebook it says sit happen. No, it says yeah.
In the
I don't remember.
Facebook, it
I
says
think it
Sit
says it
Happens
happens, but
Dog
it has
Training
it
LLC.
says Some Prairie in the Some Prairie, Wisconsin. So if you search for me that way, I also have a website.
You're the first one
It's
that
Sit
pops
Happens
up.
Dog Training WI for Wisconsin in there. So either way, you send me a message either way. And
Say that again, because I interrupted. I'm sorry.
so my website is www.sithappensdogtraining.wi. So Wisconsin is in there. So that I want to make that clear where because there are other sit happens is in the country, but I'm
And
in Wisconsin, so
and also Scott, I thank you so much for putting this out there. Canine Partners for Patriots. They're out of Brooksville, Florida. And that's another people that you can get a hold of, Daniel. On there too is look that up. And Sarah,
Custom Canines is here in Wisconsin, and they're out in California as well. That's who I went through to help me train my dog.
okay. And Sarah on here says we do a nonprofit who provide free training for veterans in need of a service dog training, including dogs here in Michigan. So get a hold of Sarah too. And this is what I like about all this is that our community is coming together and we're helping each other. This is what this is about. Veterans connected with other veterans helping out. And Lynn, that's why we brought you back on, because I wanted an update. I know your things, you had a rough period of time, but now you're starting to get moving. Everything's looking up and up. And so
Always looking up when you're helping somebody.
right. And it's true.
It
And
is.
and that's what I like about doing this is that we get to meet very interesting people that like to help people. And I really
Yeah.
I do appreciate it because I see John is dying for another question.
Well, so I want to ask this question for people out there, for people who have gone through divorces, who are veterans, and things didn't go the way they needed to. I ask our listeners for if they know of attorneys, lawyers that they can suggest to us to help that veteran if they got screwed when they got, and not in a good way, when they went through a divorce. If there's people out there that have information on that, please send it our way so we can share that for those people who are the veteran and things didn't go like they should have gone, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I
It's a money game, and when you're disabled and you have limited income,
and I think the VA should provide every veteran that needs a service dog. I think the VA should provide them one. I really do. And thank you.
and that's maybe the next step in helping in taking the service dog nonprofits to that level of another resource and finding that support and that money, because right now I can't start my nonprofit yet because it costs so much money to start it. I'm going to slowly get in there though, but being an official nonprofit, so people can start donating and they can write off. It's a tax write off for people that donate to the nonprofit, but you need that nonprofit status to be able to do that. So that costs money to get there. So that would be great if there was money in the VA to be able to support the nonprofits that are trying to get these dogs out. So like the nonprofit that helped me, I think they have 30 dogs in training between Wisconsin and California, 30 dogs. Now you think that's a lot, and it is a lot for them, but think about the 500 people that are waiting. And that's where there's that disconnect. Like people that are in this state of need right now. Wait 5 years to help someone help you get out the door. And that's just, or have a dog help you get out the door. That it should be quicker and we should have more funds, and we should have more. We just should.
Right.
I don't know where it is. If it's I mean, 30 dogs is a lot. That's a
If we
lot
could
for
allot money, if we can
training.
allot money to go overseas to help other countries, we should be able to allot money to help. That's how I look at it too.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So
take-
so the nonprofits that are doing this, they're relying on volunteers as well, just like the rescues. They're relying on volunteers and just to keep their heads above water. And
and on
better.
here we put up Daniel, and we're gonna leave this up for a little while. Right here, that there is a place in around your area. Just click on that website. I don't know if you've been there, check it out. You know, we're going to lead this up a little bit because we have information out there for this, and I think it's important. I know people who have service animals. I know people who have emotional support animals, and I understand. I understand the need for both. I have a dog. I wouldn't train him to do either or because he wouldn't listen to a word I said anyway. But when I need him, he's my best buddy. He don't talk back to me like my children. I'm sorry, children, if y'all are listening to this. And you know, I tell him I only have to feed him once. I don't got to feed him 3 times a day. I only have to give him water. Rest he does rest stuff himself. That's the way I look at it. I love it. But I mean, Linda, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for helping me with everything. The emotional support you guys have given me is just fantastic.
And that's what we'll always be here. That's what
happy to do it. Absolutely
and
happy to do
John,
it. Just
You guys are some great guys.
and
Thanks. I'm
I
so glad
still
I
love
found you.
your I still love your haircut. I wish you would try to grow it out. I just want to see how much hair
Yeah.
you got.
I got.
I had to bring that up. I didn't say it in the beginning. And so, if any of y'all have questions, right before we go on after show real quick, if any of y'all have questions, y'all please email me at kevinsimon@go4sideeffects.com. And the other thing is next week, we have one hell of a show about to come up because we're going to expose some stuff going inside the VA that none of y'all probably got to hear. So that will be next week. And also go check out our Patreon. We're going to be adding some new stuff to it. Also go check out the store and, you know, and go to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, you know, share it. And we're now going to the after show. I appreciate y'all listening. Thank you guys.